Hi, my name is Joel. I'm a miniature sculptor, at least part-times, and I have a little brand called Irrbloss Miniatures. I've been sculpting miniatures for about 10 years, but I have worked with 3D graphics and sculpting for since 2000 or something. So this is my range of miniatures. I sculpt them and cast them in pewter. I have a lot of fantasy stuff, but lately also been working on some more wasteland miniatures as well. So I've been thinking about making a series just to show my process of making these sculpts, taking one miniature from nothing to sculpting them and then printing them out and making a mold and casting them, just to show the whole process. So I started out working with I have a range I call Fantasy Old School, where it's hand sculpted miniatures from green stuff and Procreate and different sculpting materials. So here's where I started out. I wanted to have something to move me away from the screen and make something with my hands. So I started out sculpting those kind of small 28mm miniatures in the beginning. Later on I moved on to digital sculpting, and that's what I'm working with right now. So I don't do hand sculpted miniatures, almost no hand sculpted miniatures, but I do some buildings and stuff like that just to get away from the screen sometimes. So I have a range of, I think, 50 maybe digital sculpts and about 70 hand sculpted that I've done through the years, and I've tried to refine my way of sculpting to make it as painless as possible. So that's what I'm want to show a bit about the process of what kind of tools I use and stuff like that, so to make it as enjoyable as possible, so you can have fun when you sculpt. So I'm just gonna, before I run the sculpt I'm making, I'm just gonna show some of the brushes I will be using in the video. So I have a couple of brushes I use, and the brushes are these ones, right? So I mostly work subtractive, so I start up with a bigger shape and then I remove volume. When I started, I did the opposite. So I used those clay build-up brushes and stuff like that to just build up volume. But nowadays I've started to fancy the trim dynamic too, because I think it's awesome to work with. And I work maybe 80% with just trim dynamic and remove volume. So that's the first brush I want to show, and this one. So I use it when I start out, I use it to just shape things. If I'm making a face or something, I just remove volume with trim dynamic, and then I use that together with the snake hook, this one. So I have shortcuts for it, but I wanted to show you, just want to show. So this one is like the second one I use as well, just to drag out, and like if I want to move something in the sculpt, I use this as well. So this one together with trim dynamic, and then I also used like the clay brushes. So we have the usual clay brush. That is very good when you want to add like a bit of volume. It's kind of soft, and then you can like smooth them out with the trim dynamic tool. And I use the trim dynamic both like with Alt or without Alt. So cases you want to use like trim dynamic in the like opposite, when you like push Alt and get this little minus sign, is when you like, let's say you have, and I always work with Dynamesh as well. Just want to say that. So that's something I always use. But like trim dynamic is very good to join different pieces together as well. So if I Dynamesh this, it will become one single mesh. And trim dynamic is very good to, like, you push the Alt button and you can, like crevices and stuff, you can like use the Alt key and join things together very good. So that's also something I use the trim dynamic for. Then I also use, sometimes I use like the clay buildup. Not so much as I did before, but I use it sometimes when I want to like remove a lot of material. Like say I want to make the eyes on the character, I use the clay buildup and Alt click it. Or maybe I want to add more more material than the usual clay brush, because it's not like building up volume in the same way. I use that as well, and together with like the trim dynamic, I can then smooth out the surfaces and like join them when pushing the Alt button as well. So you can like smooth them out, and here you can Alt push and just fill and get a very smooth surface. I like that. I like the workflow. I like you will be able to see like face areas and stuff like that a lot better. I think when you like square things, and then you can go in later on and get some texture on it. But in the beginning, when you want to see shapes and like facets, or what do you call it, it's very good to use that, I think. I also use a brush that I haven't loaded here, I see. So let's just do that. The orb. So the orb brushes are, so I mainly use this orb crack 2. They're also very, very good. There's like, if you have the usual standard brush, that's this one. It makes like, you can make like crevices and lines and stuff like that. But I often use the orb because it's like a much, it's like more V-shaped in form, and it gives a really good line. And those things you can also use, like, let's say I want to make, I think you will see that in the video later on. I like want to just make some definition here. I can use that, and then just use the trim dynamic, go in and just fill it again, and you can see I got some definition here to the cheek. Yeah, you get it. So that's also something I use a lot. So I think that's all. I also try to work with a lot of sub tools. So I add if I want to make a nose, I make a separate subtool for that, and I don't merge until I know that I want this nose, and then I merge them together, either to like, okay, now I think I have my face in front of, just merge them together. So let's and then dynamesh them and work with the trim dynamic and stuff like that to join them. So I will show you a video, and it's gonna be a long one, and it might be boring, so you can like I don't know, I have sped it up like 3 times or something, but I wanted to show the whole process. I didn't want to cut it. I wanted it to be like how I do stuff, so you can see the whole process. And I will be making, first I will be making a face for the character. I often start with that, just because that informs the rest of the character, how it's going to look. I've done a lot of like miniatures, so when you start out, it might be profitable to just do like a whole character dummy before you end up working with the face. But I know, like, I've done it so many times, so I often start with the face, and that I will work on quite extensively to get a feel for it, and then I will make a dummy, as I call it, like, because this miniature will be having an armor later on. But I make a dummy body that is like without any clothes, so that I can work on later on when I do the armor, and that will be the second video, I think. So first I will make the face and then the body, and that will take some time. And when I'm done, I have a dummy for the body and the face. So, and I try to comment a bit what I'm doing, but when I sculpt in the video, but mainly it's like something you can have, like, just watch the background or something, just to get a feel for my workflow. And maybe that this would help you when you start out, because like some of the problems when you start out is like you have so many tools and so many brushes that you really don't know what to use, and like in the end you like end up with like 3 brushes that you like and use those all the time. So that's what I wanted to show, like the few brushes I use, and how I work with them. So I'll start the video now, so have a good time. So as I said before, I start out with a sphere that is dynameshed, and I start to shape the skull using trim dynamic and a snake hook, polishing and trying to bring a general shape of the face. Added some volume there with a clay brush, and yeah, start to like shape the main body, the main face. Here I used the like clay builder to make a cavity for the eyes. I often find that I'm making the eyes always too high up, so I need to like reshape the head afterwards, for some reason. Like I've done that for so long now. But I try to like shape the face overall and drag out with the snake hook just to reshape the face when I go along. And here I add a different subtool for the nose, as I talked about earlier, and reshape the face accordingly. Start to shape the nose and stuff, like with the trim dynamic, and bit of snake hook, just to drag out things. It's very find it very profitable to to do things in different parts, because when you when you have joined them, they're harder to sculpt from inside and stuff like that. So working on the sub tool, separate from the main mesh, is makes it much easier to form the things how you want to have them. And I also loaded the Irrbrush I talked about earlier, and the Irrbrush is something you can download. I can put a link below for free, or you can pay for it. I think I paid a couple of times for it because I use it so much. So every time I download it, when I don't know, when I on a new computer, everything, I drop some bucks for it, just to, because I use it so much. I also separate lips in a different sub tool as well. Instead of sculpting and from the underneath mesh, I add the volume by adding a new sphere and sculpt from there. Using the snake hook to drag it out, and defining bits with, I use a little bit of clay build up here to just define the lips. And when I'm and when I'm satisfied with the look of the nose and lips and stuff like that, then I will merge them and join them together with the trim dynamics, as I'll be doing here. So I alt click and join the pieces together with the trim dynamic. And here the face I will work a bit more on than the rest of the body later on. As I said before, just to get a feel for the character. So I'm planning on doing a dark elf, and I think in a female dark elf. So in the end of this video, I don't think I'm completely satisfied with the look of the face, but I let it go before I sculpted the rest of the feature. Then I can go back to the face and just resculpt it to the feel I want. And I also try to when you're done with the dummy, and the dummy is a female dummy, you can reuse that for different sculpts later on, so you make it kind of general in that sense. And go in and shape the nose with a bit of Irrbrush and trim dynamic. I will say trim dynamic 100 times in this video, but I use it so much. So I join here the two pieces, and yeah, smooth out the crevices that comes from smashing them together. Defining the cheek, what is called, the haka in Swedish, with the Irrbrush. And I also added eyes, and we'll be adding the ears soon as well. When I do the eyes, I often make first two spheres, one small and one bigger, and separate the eyelids. So I'll be making one eyelid, and then I just duplicate that and rotate it around. And later on I will merge them, but now I do some sculpting around the eyes that is hard to do when you have merged them together. So try to be thoughtful of the process. And I also use sometimes I need to make things here I inflate the whole mesh with the deformation palette, just to make it a bit thicker. That's also something I often use, like want to shrink something uniformly or inflate something, use the inflate, the deformation inflate tool. Adding a bit of volume with a clay, usual clay brush, just to get small, smooth volumes to add to the character of the face. And now I joined the underlip as well to the face, and will be doing the same here for the eyelids. I'm satisfied with how the rest of the eye cavity looks, so I can add that to the face. Going in with a smaller brush with trim dynamic to just get into those edges on the eyelid. Often I use quite big. Don't be afraid to use big brushes with trim dynamic when shaping things. So when I start out shaping a face or something, I use a very big size on the brush. I don't think maybe you can see that now. I'm enlarging the brush just to get a large plane that I can push down, repositioning and starting to define the ears. So I go from a very large brush to smaller when I need to do more detailed work, using the clay build up to make some cavities in the ear. And here I probably will have to look at some references of ears, because I never remember exactly how they look. So I'll have that on the side on a different screen, just googling it and looking at references to see how all the weird lines and stuff like that are in the ear. I often do that on the fly, because I can't remember everything, all the muscles and stuff that a lot of them come natural in the scalp, but some things you have to check on just to see to get them right, or that they look right at least. Okay, so now it's this is kind of long session in the video where I just drag out some hair to get a feeling for what kind of hair I want. This I will probably rework later on, because I wasn't really satisfied with how it looked afterwards. I wanted I didn't want falling hair on the sides, but I wanted have it over the head and more something like that. But I still spend some time just having some reference point of where the hair is going, to get some feel for the face character. I'll try to add some chapters to the video as well, so you can skip if you feel that some parts take too long time to look through. But as I said before, I didn't want to cut the video. I just want to have the whole process, and I have the timer beneath. It's just to show you how much time I spend on when blocking out and getting the main shapes of the body on the sculpt, just to get a reference point, because it's sped up I think 3 times or something. try not to overwork things in these stages. I just try to like get in a flow and get the larger parts done and ready. And I also try to zoom out now and then, just to, because I make a miniature, it's going to be small in the end, so it has to be like readable in a small format. So that's why I often zoom out a bit, just to see that okay, the nose is defined and you can see it on far away. So then you will be able to see it when it's small. And that's why that's a very good thing when you're like sculpting physically. You have that naturally. You can see what's needs to be exaggerated and stuff like that. But when you work in digital environment, you have to like always have to zoom out and look at the piece from afar, just to get a feel for if it's will show up. And maybe you have to like add some ridges or stuff to the eyebrows or whatever, just to make them pop when they are small. So here I will be starting a bit with rest of the body, and this I will not work as much on. It will take some while to make the whole body, but I will not go into detail as much on this, because this is not probably not the it won't be seen probably in the final sculpt, because I will have clothes and armor over it, but I still want to have a base that I can work on. Sorry, I got a phone call here, but I think it's a salesman, so I don't answer that. Dragon with snake hook and like refining with a trim dynamic and different brushes that I talked about before. I just use the standard brush there. That's like not often I use that, but sometimes you need a shape that is more soft and not as defined as the Irrbloss. When I get like the neck, I can also see some like things that I might have to change in the face, so I go back to the face. And soon I think I will be using the Irrbloss to just make a definition in at the sides of the face there, I think. Maybe. Later on I will be doing that at least, just to show with the Irrbloss, as I talked about in like before when I started the video. Starting with the torso. Using a very big brush to like just sculpt out the main shape of it. And that's something I really like I want to emphasize, to not use too small brush when you working with Dynamesh. No, trim dynamic I mean, because it's like it's have as large brush you can for the detail you're making. So that's my advice for that, to make it work as good as possible. So I will go through the whole body now and just add from top to bottom the things I need for the sculpt. And some pieces are going to take a longer time, like the hands with all the fingers and stuff like that. They will like take a while. And I try to like define the body a bit, just to get reference points for. So now I'm using the Irrbloss, I think. No, I'm just playing around, testing out some different things. We'll probably go back to the nose later on. I like to make these tips on the nose, because when you have that as a miniature, will pop out a bit more, and you can like put a highlight or something on that later on. depending on the character of the face, of course. But so next up, lower torso. So this I like wrestle with a bit before I got it right. And I want to just say that like doing this dumb is not and something I'm doing every time I make a new sculpt. I have like a couple of dummies that I use, and then I reuse them for making different sculpts and stuff like that. So that's a part of it that I reuse a lot, and also with hands and stuff like that. I also reuse them to not have to do the work every time I sculpt. But I try to like once in a while make new dummies and new sculpt of hands and stuff like that. So like to improve and have some different characters to even to those parts. So I try to remake bodies and hands and feet and stuff like that once in a while. Some sculpts you can see that I use like the same feet, like shoes and stuff like that on some different. And when I do that, I try to like still have some. I still try to have sculpt them a bit so that they're different and like have a different character to them. But that's like something I try to get every miniature have to its own character and not just like have the exact same hand as someone else. I refine them a bit and resculpt them a bit for every miniature. So starting to make the lower part of the body, adding a leg, and here I will probably go in and like when you work like negatively or subtractive, you sometimes end up with like thicker pieces than you would if you would work additively. So sometimes I go down to the deformation tab in the deformation palette and deflate things just to make them a bit thinner. So here when I do the lower part of the leg, I will do that quite some times just to make it thinner, because you often end up with like thicker parts than you want to. Defining the knees just to have some reference point here for the rest of the leg on the bones and stuff on the wrist. On the lower parts of the legs. Try to get a feel for the anatomy as well. And that's maybe not something that will be seen in the final sculpt of but it's here I deflate because I think it's too thick. But the anatomy things are like something that helps you when you're sculpting like armor and stuff like that as well. So I always try to define a bit of the anatomy parts on all this, but the most of this I just do from my head, so I don't go into like details of exactly anatomy pieces and stuff like that. I try to just block out things as fast as I can here, just to get a feel for it. And here I'm like making a folder for the head, so I can scale up the body, the rest of the body except the head, because I was thinking that like the head is a bit too big for the body. And here I go down and like deflate the lower parts of the legs again, making them a bit thinner. And I will probably scale up the body once more, because I often find that I make the body a bit too big for compared to the head, so I often like rescale things later on when I get when I can see the whole model before me, defining the bones on the legs a bit there just to get a feel, reference points and stuff like that. Scaling up the body a bit more. Wasn't really satisfied, so I did it again there. But I don't want the body to be like, I want still the head to be quite big. When you make a miniature, you want want to have like a bit exaggerated. You want a bit exaggerated, not like a realistic. Anatomy wise, you want a bit like her hands over exaggerated and the head and stuff like that, because if you would like make him in the real scale, in the realistic scale, they would look like tiny, I found. So you have to like think about the scale you're working in. And sometimes I like print out larger versions of the sculpts that are small and they look very chunky and big, but when you get them in the 28mm scale, they are like look perfect. So like the scale you're working in, like really you have to like make different kind of sculpting depending on the scale. I think the most of them like would work in 54mm scale or something as well, so 28 to 54 maybe. I also tried to make some like 10mm sculpts, but I found that my sculpting technique, like I need to make things a much more chunkier, because like heads and stuff like that look tiny, even though I've exaggerated them. So like this is something you have to train on, depending on the scale you're working in. Making the arms, upper arms, I think. So I go back and forth between the different parts, depending on what I'm adding. So when I add the arms, I can see more of, okay, I need to do this on their body. So then I go back and resculpt those things and like resize parts of the body, so that I get nice definitions. And sometimes I like, when I'm done with the sculpt, I can go in and like, okay, I need to rescale the whole lower body or something like that. I do that as well, so nothing is set in stone until it's done. So now again, I think I will like enlarge and like making the legs a bit longer to get the more slender feel to the miniature. And probably I will do that again later on when I like make the final sculpt as well, because I want it to be a dark elf, so I want it to be a bit more slender in feel, like not as muscular and chunky as it is now. So you can see that there's some clips, and that's when I go and get some cuff and stuff like that. I cut that away at least, so it won't be like 5 hours long. So here I'm like making the lower parts of the forearm, right? I can't find the like right English words, but I try to defining a bit of the arm there, so get some reference points. Maybe if you want making an arm or something over it later on, you can see where you should have the different pieces and stuff like that. And here I also tend to make a bit too like long arms and stuff like that, so I go back and forth there and scale things and and rescale them after I've done like a part. I see, okay, it's too long and stuff like that. I go back and rescale, and I found that like I've always, like, since I was very started out, I've always made too short legs. That's also something I rescale when I work, so I don't get things right at the start. I have to like rework things over and over again. And here, hands are often something I was make a bit too large at the beginning. I will have to scale them down later on. And if you bend down the arms now, they are going to go a bit too long on the thighs, on the legs, like. So that's also something I need to rework later on. So rescaling a bit on the other underbody, and I think I will make the head a bit smaller again. All the time going back and forth and rescaling and making things like look better from like afar, and get some perspective on a character. Now I'm going to shrink down the arms a bit, make them a bit shorter. And here I have to like split the legs because the sculpting sphere, like the brush, interferes with the other side. And then I just split them, and then I delete the one side and mirror them again. I'm making a folder of the arms and just bend them down to see where they end up on the legs, as a reference to see if they look okay. That's something I often do, and I use my own body sometimes to just stand up and feel, okay, where does the legs, like the arms end and stuff like that. Even though I have some like feel for it in my brain, I still have to like use my body to have as reference. And like I've been working on like game development and stuff like that, and I have like my my old neighbor, my work pal, was an animator, and he often stood up and like tried out swings or whatever with his own body just to get a feel for it. So I can recommend that, to like use your own body as like a reference for different parts of your body. See, okay, if I bend my knee, where does the heel land on my back, and things like that, so you can like have a feel for in your body how big things should be and stuff like that. But then it also come down to like that this is a miniature, so you have to like edit those things a bit. So I make a shoe shape here, or foot shape. Not going into much on detail, but still trying to have a overall feel to it that feels good, that I can work on later on. So I'm starting to have like the full body ready now, and I will soon be going into the fingers. I'm thinking maybe to speed up that even more, because it's kind of it takes a while to do those, and I don't know if it adds too much to the final video. Starting with the thumbs, and then I go finger to finger, and I will like split the different subtools for different parts of the finger, because then when I pose the character, I will be able to just move things around and like make a grip or whatever. I'll show you a bit of like how I sculpt the parts of the finger, and then I think I will speed up the video because it will take some time to make all the parts of the fingers. And I don't go into detail, as I said before, just like the overall shape should be right, and that's it. So I start out with one of the fingers, making different parts of them, 3 joints. I just like control drag out, when I made one part, I just control drag it out to make a copy of it in the same subtool. Make like knuckles and stuff on the fingers. What do you call it? Those little bulging things. Try to make, I think I made it like the large part. It's like the whole finger now, but I will shorten it down and make the 3rd joint as well. Try not to spend too much time on it, just get it about right, so you get a feel for the whole finger, that it feels okay. And sometimes I go into more detail, like I will be doing soon, I think, just shaping the fingers to have little less work later on when I sculpt them. But I will be bending them and like posing them later on, so not too much work on it. And when I'm done with one finger, I will like control drag it and make a copy of it later on. Here I'm separating the thumb from the fingers, just so I can like control drag out the fingers separately. Often look at my own hand when I do this to like get the size of the fingers right. That's your like best reference point is your own body. Sometimes you can look at like muscle structures and things like that. You can like, there are like softwares for that, and there are like posing softwares and stuff like that, or just looking at images on Google and stuff like that. Now I'm going to like separate the hands and shrink them a bit because they're a bit too big. So I'm like just doing some final touch-ups on the hand. You see, they look very clumsy and not very good at this point, but I will refine that later on when I post the character and see what parts actually will be visible. So they're like fat sausages. Now I'm going to Transpose Master, and I'm doing a merge copy of the sculpt, and I'm just like, because I want to change like forms and things on the full sculpt. So then I merge them. You can like merge all your things and do it like not in the Transpose Master, but I want to keep the subtool structure, so I just go into the Transpose Master and make a merged copy of it, so I can later on I can just go in and assign that to the subtools I have before. And I'm like going to fiddle a bit before I get it right when to load the to like transfer the merged copy to the subtools, but there I got it. So now the main body is done. I'm gonna stop the VOD video here, and next time we will work on the armor and stuff. So this first video was quite long, but I think the next one will be shorter. Now we've done the like bread and butter of the miniature, and next up is just the fun parts. So till next time, bye bye.